Welcome to a special national championship edition of the Buckeye Fever podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Dave Holmes. On today's show, we're going to talk all about the Buckeyes against the Fighting Irish, of course. But first, we're going to do a quick recap here on the Cotton Bowl. And all you need to know about the Cotton Bowl is this. I met Matthew McConaughey. We're going to get to that in just a minute. First, let's talk about the actual football game. I loved what I saw out of the Buckeyes. All right, 28 points on offense is their lowest playoff output so far. But that says more about the otherworldly level the Buckeyes were playing at than this. That's still 28 points on a very good Texas team. Shout out to Jack Sawyer. This guy, the Pickerington guy, if we tell the story of Jack Sawyer, he comes in as a 5-star recruit, top defensive player in the country. And he flounders a bit. He doesn't pop as quick as early as you may have liked. But then look at what happened at the end of last season. Jack goes down to that Cotton Bowl, one of the most miserable games in Ohio State history against Missouri. 3 sacks, a career outing in Jerry's world. No quit in Jack Sawyer. Now, at that point, if I were Jack Sawyer's agent, I would probably say 3 sacks in your final game, we sell this stock high. Martha Stewart would have sold that stock. Phil Mickelson would have sold that stock. Who else has been busted for insider trading? They also would have sold that stock, but not Jack Sawyer. He goes out and he calls all of his teammates and said, we run it back. We do it again. And I know this because after the game, we interviewed all the players and they all said Jack Sawyer was the ringleader. He was the one who called us, who recruited us to come back. And they came back. And Jack Sawyer came back for a moment like that. And look at what happened a little over a month ago. Jack Sawyer had his moment also on the goal line with the interception against Michigan, the play that we thought saved the game. That was going to be the defining moment of Jack Sawyer's career until it wasn't. Now it's going to be one of those plays that just gets forgotten in Buckeye history because of the result. So he didn't have his moment. Now he does. This one lives forever. And Jack Sawyer was the guy after the Michigan game ripping out the flag. And I know people feel some kind of way. Some people say, that's my guy. Some people say, not a good look, Jack. I'll say this. Ryan Day after the game said, quote, we got some guys that had too much pride to let that happen. And he was talking about Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer is a flag-ripping, no mistake-making dude who loves Buckeye football. That is Pickerington, Ohio. He loves these Buckeyes. His coaches love him. His teammates love him. So for him to go strip sack 83 the other way, of any player you could pick on that defense, I would argue that Jack Sawyer, the moment he ripped that flag out, like it or not, set the tone for what this team was going to be over the next 6 weeks. Jack Sawyer, in some ways, was ripping the Band-Aid off when he ripped the flag out. We're starting fresh right now. Did they need to lose that game? I don't know. Jim Knowles and Chip Kelly were asked about that. You know, this whole narrative idea. Did you need to lose to Michigan to get refocused? And Chip Kelly said, I don't believe in narratives. But I'll say this. This team has refocused. It's incredible. All right, now while you're here, Matthew McConaughey. So here's what happens. I'm on the sidelines, and I love the celebrity interactions, right? I'm one of these few dudes who actually still glances at us weekly in the aisle. I love me a celebrity. And one day, maybe I'll do a show on just celebrity interactions. I've had some wild ones. I have peed shoulder to shoulder at the NBA Finals with Justin Bieber. I have met Kanye, and I actually got a selfie with Kanye, and the moment I hit the camera button, it said, memory full, and my phone locked up, and Kanye just goes, oh, man, that sucks, and walked off. So I do love the occasional celebrity interaction. I know Matthew McConaughey is going to be there. He is, with all due respect to Bevo, the unofficial mascot of Texas football. So I see him on the sideline, and I walk over to him, and I say, hey, Matthew, can I get a pic real quick? He goes, man, I'm on my way to talk to someone. That's my McConaughey. All right. He walks over to Colt McCoy, former Texas quarterback, former Cleveland Browns quarterback, and now McConaughey talks to Colt McCoy. Then he talks to Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit. Then the refs come over and take a picture with Matthew McConaughey, which I didn't love that as a Buckeye fan, right? Go get a pic with Brutus. I wasn't crazy about them getting pictures with the Texas guy. Didn't impact the game. I'm playing there. Don't create a conspiracy there. But McConaughey's being an everyman, right? And I was actually playing catch with one of his sons on the sideline, and I'm just waiting. And his bodyguard comes over to me and says, "Do you want a picture with Matthew?" And I think, am I getting kicked off the field or what? I said, "I'd like that." He said, "Hey, I'm his bodyguard. Just chill here. He's got this whole routine. He'll be back here in a bit." So after Matthew's done schmoozing for a while, he comes back. And then he says, the bodyguard says to me, "Go ahead and approach him here from the left side." So I don't know if Matthew McConaughey has a side. I was told to approach him from the left, so I did. And I walk over and say, "Hey, Matthew, I know you got a lot of people trying to get your time here. You got 1 second?" He goes, "Come on, man, come on." And I hold up the phone, take the picture. The moment that thing is snapped, McConaughey just goes, "You got it, run along, you got it." Now, I will say this. When it comes to celebrity photos, I think Titanic rules apply. And by that, I mean women and children first. I saw Matthew McConaughey take pictures with women and with kids, and he was not cold at all. He was kind to everyone. I actually took a video of him with the Ohio State marching band, fist bumping every one of them. He was a total gentleman and nice to everyone. He was a little short with me. I think he probably thought, who is this 42-year-old man by himself who wants a picture with me? And I wanted to tell him, look, man, I could sit here and watch you rip cigs and deliver monologues in True Detective till the end of time. I sat through How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I could stomach a rom-com for you. I want to drive a Lincoln because of you. Of all the lines in Matthew McConaughey's career, the best one ever delivered is, "Jerry's eating rice," in the Grubhub commercial. Or is it Uber Eats? I don't know. I know McConaughey's on it. So I got the picture. I ran along. I did my due diligence there. Love you, Matthew. I appreciate the time. Okay, enough nonsense. It's time to talk Notre Dame. National championship game. When we return on the Buckeye Fever podcast, we're breaking down the Bucks and the Irish. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Buckeye Fever podcast. The stage is set. We are going to Atlanta. Of all the cities in the United States, Atlanta is one of them. It's one of them. It's probably my least favorite big city. But we're going to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. A lot of glass, big circular scoreboard, and the game, Ohio State against Notre Dame. I cannot wait for this. Coaching matchup is just dripping with appeal. You have Marcus Freeman, who many people thought maybe he would end up back here one day. Marcus Freeman, former Buckeye, against Ryan Day. Two coaches looking for their first national title. Younger-ish coaches looking for a national title. You have a former coach, Lou Holtz, my fellow Kent State alum. Now, I was an anchor at ESPN for a year a long time ago, and I used to do segments with Lou Holtz all the time. He was on there with Mark May, and Lou was a good friend of mine. We would talk about Kent State, and he would always joke about our education or lack thereof. Love you, Kent State. Just quit calling me for donations. And I love Lou Holtz, but Lou Holtz made a comment about the Buckeyes not being tough enough to beat Notre Dame. You remember what happened next. Ryan Day on the microphone after the game. "I want to know where Lou Holtz is right now." He gets memed out the wazoo. It's the most memeable Ryan Day moment since he took over. Now it's become a running gag whenever the Buckeyes win. Ryan Day's looking for an old man. Like, it's funny, right? So Ryan Day was asked about it, and I love when like these national guys, because the national guys, like, you'll be on these Zoom calls. And we're all the local media that have been to hundreds of Ryan Day news conferences. These national guys will get on, and you'll hear the affiliate. They'll be like, "So-and-so, Wall Street Journal." I'm like, what are they going to ask them about Ryan Day's 401k? What is this? It's always out of left field. And someone says, "Hey, have you ever patched it up with Lou Holtz?" And Ryan Day didn't even try to play ball. He just goes, no. That was it. So no love lost there between Lou Holtz and Ryan Day. As for the game itself, I think a couple things are going to come down to. Notre Dame loves to play man-to-man. Notre Dame loves their secondary. They play more man-to-man than almost any other team. The Buckeyes theoretically love man-to-man, especially Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah is going to get a lot more looks than he got against Texas. I don't think he's going to have 2 or 3 guys bracketed and rolled his way. Notre Dame believes in their man-to-man. Ohio State believes in their ability to beat it. That's matchup 1. Matchup 2, though, is Riley Leonard, Notre Dame's quarterback. He only has 163 yards per game in his last 5. He can run it. He had 14 carries for 80 yards against Georgia. I do not think that Riley Leonard could beat the Buckeyes with his arm. I do think that if Ohio State's defense has an Achilles heel, they do tend to struggle to contain mobile quarterbacks. So I think Riley Leonard is way scarier with his legs when a play breaks down than actually beating the Buckeyes with his arm. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. This Ohio State team, though, 4 wins already against the top 5. This would be their 5th win. No team in college football has ever done it. And we talked about that before the season. This narrative that Ryan Day cannot win the big game is a total farce. It's not true. If you want to have a Michigan debate, I will gladly entertain it. It's a healthy debate that there's some sort of mental thing going on there. But if you want to talk about Ryan Day, quote, can't win the big game, that's nonsense. He's won over a dozen big games in his career at Ohio State. That's nonsense. It's a nonsense narrative. Michigan narrative, I'll give it some legs. But the overall big game narrative is just not true. They could win a 5th game. Right now, they're tied with a few teams, including Joe Burrow's LSU Heisman campaign, who had 4 wins against top 5 opponents. But to me, this game, if we do want to walk down narrative street, comes down to the Ohio State senior class. Because what they could do here is so poetic. It is Robert Frost, Henry Longfellow, Walt Whitman poetic. Not E.E. Cummings poetic, because that's a lot of upper and lowercase letters. It looks like scribble. My literary fans right now are laughing at that joke. There's probably about 4 of you listening, but that was for you. That was a niche joke. But this would be poetic. If Ohio State could somehow, think about this senior class. They came in with such fanfare. You know, this top-rated recruiting class. Your 3 goals every year. Beat Michigan. 0 for 4. Win the Big Ten title. 0 for 4. Can't even get there. Win the national title. 0 for 3. So they are 0 for 11 on goals. And all they've heard for 3 years and 95% of a 4th year is you can't do it. What if that team, after the lowest of lows against Michigan, arguably the worst loss in Ohio Stadium history, what if that team regrouped and said, you know what? We're going to drop the mic on the way out the door. That's what's at stake here. One of the greatest stories ever written in Ohio State football history. And the final chapter is Monday, January 20th at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I think they're going to do it. And for my track record, there are a lot of folks I know in Columbus media who predict the Buckeyes to go 12-0 every single year since the dawn of time. I do think of the Buckeye media, I tend to be on the more objective end. I promise. I don't just think everything is scarlet all the time. But I think they're going to do it because I don't think Notre Dame's offense can hang 30 on these guys. I just don't. I think Ohio State's defense is the best in the country, and I think Ohio State's offense is significantly better than Notre Dame's. I just think the only team that can beat them is Ohio State. If they show up like Michigan, they will lose this game. But I think that's a Michigan problem. I don't think this Ohio State team's going to lay an egg. If it was going to happen, it was Tennessee. And for me, the first quarter of Tennessee, I even told someone next to me in the press box, they said, do you think they're going to win? I said, I think they're either going to blow the doors off or lie down and die on this field. And we'll know in about 10 minutes. And it was very clear that Ohio State chose door-blowing season. We're going to come out like gangbusters every game. So I think once they beat that mental hurdle of how do you regroup against Michigan, they became the best team in college football, just like we knew they were back in August. And I don't think Notre Dame, nor every 4-leaf clover or leprechaun is going to stop that. I think the Buckeyes are that good. So I think Ohio State's winning this national championship. That's going to do it for us here on this episode of the Buckeye Fever podcast. Next week, we are recapping the season that was. Did we get that poetic finish? Remember, the Buckeyes won the first ever 4-team playoff 10 years ago. Are they going to win the first ever 12-team playoff? We will find out Monday, January 20th in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Atlanta, Georgia, one of my favorite cities in all of Georgia, and I can't wait. So make sure you join us next week back here for a season recap edition of the Buckeye Fever podcast.